Órale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFP podcast. This is Jorge Martin and NFL Insider Series, Familia. It is just happening. It is just happening. It is just happening. Our invitados are coming back from last year. This is another one from last year who was just so spot on. But we're going to get into a little bit of last year and this year. So make sure, number one, you're following us on YouTube. Give us a like and subscribe. Por favor, por favor. We're getting really close to 100 subscribers on YouTube. That's going to be a huge help to us. Por favor. Also, we are a proud member of the Fantasy Points Media Group, Familia. They are in the middle of 32 days, 32 articles, 32 podcasts. The content is just coming out of it's out of this world, Familia. I mean, we got Graham Barfield's pace and tendencies, Scott Barrett's strength of schedule, John Hansen, the guru himself, with so many final points. Joe Dolan, his insight is great. He's doing a similar beat writer series. I mean, and Wes Huber, Tom Brawley. I mean, it's just the content that's coming out. I use it all the time because to make my content better for you. So to get you ready for your fantasy leagues, make sure when you go to fantasypoints.com, put in the promo code Familia22 if you want to do it in Spanish. Do Familia 22, get you 10% off of your subscription. So por favor, make sure you're giving that taking advantage of that promo code. And Familia, as I said, this is the invitados have just been keep coming back, and it's just been awesome to reconnect with people. This is someone who I remember last year we listening back to it. He had great predictions, then injuries took over, and that's what happened. So we're hoping for better injury luck because I want to make sure this is a team, the Baltimore Ravens, that just is always a very important one for fantasy. And one of the guys who has some of the best information, the best coverage for not only the Ravens, but also the Baltimore Orioles. As of this writing, one of the hottest teams, as of this recording, one of the hottest teams in baseball. Todd Karpovich. I'm telling you, he's at si.com. Make sure you follow his work. He's gonna be in training camp. Somehow he's gonna be pulling double duty at some point. But I tell you, he's not gonna sleep. He's also the managing editor and lead content guy at Raven Country Familia. Let me welcome in our invitado, Todd. Bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jorge. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's so. I kind of hinted at it, right? That, well, more than hinted at it last year. I mean, we were talking so much about the fact that this is a team that we were excited about for fantasy. And then you had the backfield just got decimated by ACL injuries during training camp. Then the defensive backfield, which was expected to be a strength of the team, was just also destroyed by injuries and IR. Lamar Jackson this time. How much is Raven Country, speaking of the fan base and the organization, just looking to turn the page and just wishing for better health this year?
Yeah, you got to remember, even with losing both starting running backs in training camp, losing Marcus Peters, your starting cornerback, your lockdown cornerback, the Ravens are still 8-3. They had the number one seed in the AFC playoffs quarter way through the season. So they were still playing well, and they faded down the stretch. They're looking for a bounce back year, and the Ravens, John Harbaugh has totally overhauled the way they do practice, overhauled the way they do training camp to keep these injuries from happening. They're going to do more stretching, more fitness. They're not practicing with them, even though they're going to Arizona to play them in the Cardinals in a preseason game. They're not practicing with them because they don't want to take any chance of injuries. So yeah, the Ravens are very cognizant, very determined not to have these type of injuries. And if they stay healthy, this team has the depth and talent to make a deep playoff run again. I mean, this is a very talented team, and it starts with Lamar Jackson. And, and like you said, he missed 5 games last year. The last 4 with an ankle injury, and the Ravens went, I think they went 1-4 with him out, so, and they went 8-3 with him in, 8-5 with him in. So yeah, everything begins and ends with Lamar. So Lamar has to stay healthy. And of course, we have this contract issue hanging over him. He's playing on an option, so we don't know. He was, we asked him if he was going to hold out a training camp, and he was sort of non-committal. I don't think he will. Who knows? No, but he'll be ready for the season. So yeah, everything. The Ravens will go as far as Lamar Jackson takes.
And speaking of which, he's a player who he missed, as you mentioned, he missed 5 games last year. He still was the quarterback 15. Still, I mean, he was on pace to rush for 1,000 yards again, and I mean, still have a big season. He was throwing a lot more. The Ravens as a team threw a lot more. It seemed like it was as a result of the because they were playing catch up with the defensive backfield so decimated. But this was still also the number 5 quarterback in fantasy points per game at over 21 points a game. So, when we're looking at him, he's still in the prime. You mentioned something off air that he's bulked up a little bit. What was the thought process behind? Did he express kind of like the goal behind that, and also kind of like? Can we look at his projection as far as, I mean, this is still going to be a running team, but do you think they're going to continue to pass at the high level that they did last year? Because I think it was around 30 times a game.
Yeah, Lamar went from 208, 210 pounds to 220. He said he just wanted to see how it was going to be playing with his extra muscle. I do think that he added this muscle to absorb some of the hits he takes as he gets older. He wants to be able to, his body wants to be able to absorb some of the hits he takes. Lamar's a dual threat. He's going to run. I think he can have close to 1,000 yards rushing again. I think he can have 3,000 yards passing the way it goes. He still has Mark Andrews at tight end. Now, the Ravens do have a young group of wide receivers who are unproven. But Rashad Bateman, a first-round pick, has a huge upside. He missed the first half of last year with groin surgery, but he came back. He was their best receiver. They did trade Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, even without Lamar Jackson, missing 5 games. So they might miss him. But I think a guy, James Prochet, a guy who hasn't played much in the last 2 years, is going to move into that slot position. Devin Durant, another guy who's sort of a burner and get downfield, can also have a big season. So yeah, the Ravens aren't going to go out. They're not going to go out and get a veteran wide receiver, it doesn't look like, because they sort of got burned with Sammy Watkins last year. Even though Sammy did have some clutch catches, he just sort of disappeared late in the year. The Ravens are going to go with this young group, and you got to watch them because these guys have a huge upside. These guys they work hard in practice. They have a good attitude. They have a good rapport. And they got some talent. So we'll see how that works out. And of course, you got Mark Andrews, who's the best, among the best tight ends in the NFL. He's another guy who can have another year of 1,000 yards receiving. He's Lamar Jackson's favorite target. They had drafted 2 tight ends who could make the roster. Isaiah Likely, another guy at Coastal Carolina, he especially stood out at the mandatory minicamp, the voluntary camp, because he can play like a wide receiver. He can get downfield. So the Ravens do have some weapons on offense. They'll be more balanced, but I do think you're going to see them go back to that sort of that 2019 offense where they're going to try to punish teams on the ground. They're gonna grind out. They got a big offensive line. They overhauled again with Morgan Moses. They brought in and Tyler Linderbaum. They drafted. They have a big physical mauling offensive line. So they're going to try to attack teams on the ground, and Lamar's going to, he'll take his chances to strike downfield when he gets the chance. But this will be a different type of offense. If everyone stays healthy, I think it'd be very good.
So when he passes it, are we looking at more, he being Lamar, who else? But when he passes it, are we going to be looking at a lot of the, kind of the short to intermediate routes with the occasional deep shots? You mentioned that we no longer have the deep threat of Hollywood Brown, but is there, I mean, is it more of the short and intermediate, but very, very rare deep shots?
I think the Ravens are trying to get away from that intermediate pass. They want to be more. They know they have to be more explosive. They know they have to throw the ball upfield. So I do think they're going to take more shots. I think Devin Durant and Bateman on the outside can get downfield, can get behind the secondary. They both have good hands. They both have good instincts, and they fight for balls. So yeah, I think the Ravens are going to try to be more explosive this year, throwing the ball downfield. So it's going to be a neat juxtaposition of running the ball and throwing the ball downfield. And then of course they got the tight ends in the middle of the field. They get the intermediate, and then the slot, James Prochet, and Tyler Wallace, a 4th-round pick 2 years ago, who could play a bigger role. But they got a lot of young wide receivers, unproven, but with a high-end, high upside.
And still, I mean, let's talk about the running game. The running game starts with number 8. I mean, this is a guy who's rushed for over 1,200 yards in a season. The only quarterback to rush for over 1,000 yards. I mean, how much of it starts with him? And then if we can get kind of like a health update on J.K. Dobbins, who people have been talking about. I know there's been some speculation that, his injury was more serious than the one that Gus Edwards had, which could, either limit him or even sideline him at the start of the season. Can you kind of give me how the rushing attempts will be kind of broken up between, I'd say those three.
Lamar won't have as many design runs, but he'll be a guy who's he gets out of the pocket. He sees grass in front of him. He's going to go. You know, what I mean, that's the way he plays. That's going to be his game. J.K. Dobbins, you're correct. You know, that was a big time injury. And you know, he was out there during mandatory minicamp catching the junk machine on the sideline. He'll start training camp on the PUP list. So will Gus Edwards, another guy who blew his knee out in training camp. One of the best 1-2 punches in football and running back. Both of them are hurt. Gus Edwards should be fully healthy. He's a guy who suddenly, you know, he can catch a ball out of the backfield. The guy to watch is a 6th-round pick, rookie 6th-round pick, Tyler Beatty from Missouri. He's a guy who has really flashed in the offseason workouts. Reminds me a lot of Ray Rice. The way he can catch the ball in the backfield, his shiftiness, he's fast. He finds the hole. He's the north-south runner. Very good. So he's my wild card for the Ravens running attack. Tyler Beatty have a big year if he makes the roster. And the thing is, I think he will make the roster because if they put him on a practice squad, somebody's going to grab him.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, this is a team that really uses its running backs, and you're right. I mean, there was a little bit of intrigue about Tyler Beatty after the draft. You know, he seems to be one of those guys that for fantasy you want to grab at the end of picks. But you know, Dobbins and Edwards are so important to this. They're not going to rush them back, right? They're going to make sure that these guys are back.
Look for Dobbins have a big second half of the season, not so much the first.
Okay. And how about it? But is Edwards more trending toward being ready at the beginning?
I think so, but I think they're going to start. Both going to start on the PUP list. The Ravens also Mike Davis, former Falcon, who's a big running back who can barrel over guys. Yeah, so you're going to see. It's going to be the way the season starts. You're not going to see a whole lot of Edwards and Dobbins, I don't think, until about week 7, week 8. Then you're going to see a bunch of downhill. So you know, if you pick those guys up late, fantasy, that could be very beneficial.
Oh, and that's and you know, that's when the week 7, week 8, that's when you know, we see the weather start to turn, it gets colder, and that's when running games really start to, you know, the frozen tundra, the 4 horsemen start coming out, and this is definitely one. So this could be very much, you mentioned 2019. I mean, very much one of the leading rushing teams in the NFL.
Best in history of NFL.
Yeah. That's a good one to emulate. The receivers, you talked about Rashad Bateman. It's a big season for him. Last year, injuries kind of slowed him down. But is there anything standing in the way of this guy getting somewhere between 8 and 10 targets on a weekly basis, health permitting?
None at all. No, he and Lamar Jackson worked out in the offseason together. He became a favorite target. Lamar Jackson. He has good hands. You know, he catches the ball and he has good yak. So he's a guy who's a prime target. He's Lamar Jackson's first read. You know, he's going to get a lock. You're like you say, he's going to get 10, 12 targets a game. You know, probably catch 8 or 9 of them the way he plays. So yeah, he has to stay healthy. But yeah, Bateman could have a breakout year. He could be another guy you grab late in fantasy. Could put up some big numbers for you. But he's also very good in the red zone.
And you mentioned the red zone. The king of the red zone for this team has been Mark Andrews, and you mentioned one. I mean, this guy was the tight end 1 last year. A lot of people were picking him. You know, tight end 1, tight end 2 this year. Travis Kelce is also expected to have a big year. You know, because of the loss of Marquise Brown. I mean, can we see any? I don't think there's any difference in the amount of targets that we're expecting to see out of Mark Andrews. The numbers. I mean, he's another guy who could be 8 to 10 targets a game as well. Correct?
They could even be more. The way with Marquise Brown going, the way Mark Andrews gets open, the way he plays. You know, he's a guy that Lamar. He's either first read or second read every play, you know, because he's a guy who gets the ball. You get that feeling. He has yak. You know, you said he's very good in the red zone. Lamar's very good in the red zone. The Ravens are a dangerous team in the red zone because Lamar can scramble, he can throw, he can hand off, he can run the read option. There's so many. Pat Ricard, the fullback, another guy who could do some damage in the red zone with his blocking and be able to catch the ball. But yeah, Mark Andrews. I look for Mark Andrews to have another huge year if he stays healthy. I think close to another 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah, just a beast, and a great story itself. I mean, just phenomenal the way he's been able to. Incredible. Now, you talked about some of the other receivers. I mean, they're more complimentary kind of guys to kind of keep an eye on, maybe pick up on the waiver wire if they start to come up. And when I say the other guys, the wide receivers.
Yeah, Devin Durant is a guy you should could look at. He's number 2, I think, this year.
Mhm.
He's a guy of speed. He was all pro. He made the Pro Bowl last year as a special teamers returner. He's not going to do that as much this year because they want to they probably won't do as much this year because they want to play a bigger role in the offense. So yeah, look for Devin Durant to make some noise. Make some noise. Tom Wallace, another guy. We want to see what he does. James Prochet is another guy who could catch some balls. I don't know, put up huge numbers, but he'll be a guy who gets in. He'll be in the lineup and he'll make some plays.
All right. You hinted at this one a little bit too. I love it. I love it. You're answering my question. You start to answer my questions before I even ask them. The offensive line, such an important part. Ronnie Stanley is such an anchor when he's healthy. Hasn't battled some injuries the last couple of years. This offensive line, how is it shaping up this year to kind of open those holes for the running game and to build a wall in front of Lamar Jackson?
The Ravens went out. They signed Morgan Moses, who'll play right. He'll start at right tackle. They drafted Todd Linderbaum, who'll start at center. Which means they have some depth at tackle. They got Pat McCurry can play. Juwan James, another guy who's injured, who could come back and play. They drafted Daniel Filio from Minnesota. He's a huge body, 6'10", 300 pounds. So the Ravens have some maulers. Ryan Stanley, the hope is that he's missed most of the past 2 seasons. The hope is that he's healthy. He can play a spot at left tackle. If he can't, the Ravens have some depth there. But again, the Ravens have depth all around the offensive line. They're going to be aggressive and they're going to be physical. This is going to be a team that's going to try to maul teams, try to beat up their fellows on the defensive line. Linderbaum looked good in training camp. He's a very good. He snapped the ball cleanly. He did a good job with Lamar. They seem to have a good rapport already. He's also a wrestler, so he knows how to use technique. He's very good. He knows how to push guys downfield. Morgan Moses is a guy who's very, very he's durable. He's missed very few games throughout his career. Kevin Zeitler, right guard, he played every snap last year. Solid guy. Left guard, you got Tyree Phillips and Ben Powers. 2 other big guys who'll compete for the starting job there. But again, they have depth. Yeah, so the offensive line, they have some depth. They can absorb some injuries, but again, they can't take. They can't have too many of them.
I hear you. Yeah, you can't have too many of them. Yeah, and one side of the ball that they had way too many injuries on was in the defensive secondary. I mean, this was a team that, I'm not going to lie, I was targeting every time I had a quarterback, wide receiver that was going up against them. I was just, you know what? I'm playing them this week. I wish I had
32nd against the pass. Why wouldn't you?
And it was so kind of the health outlook for that side. I want to ask about the defense, about defense against the pass first. How is the health and maybe just the offseason acquisitions looking to shore that up, maybe try and get that more toward the middle? Because this is definitely traditionally a team under John Harbaugh that has been built on defense.
Yeah, Marlon Humphrey, both starting cornerbacks suffered season injuries last year. Marcus Peters in training camp. Marlon Humphrey against the Steelers. So both their starting quarterbacks are out. And so Marlon Humphrey did practice off-season voluntary workouts and mandatory minicamp. He was ready. He's ready to go. He had a torn pec. It seems to be healed. Marcus Peters had a knee injury. He has not practiced, so he may start on the PUP, but the expectation is he'll be ready. The Ravens drafted a stud safety, Kyle Hamilton, who has flashed throughout the voluntary camps, mandatory minicamps. He's going to start. He can wear the green dot, relaying the defensive plays to the rest of the team. He's a guy, and they also got Marcus Williams, another solid ball hawk safety. So they've upgraded this secondary very, very much. They have some ball hawks back there. There's some guys who can hit. They got Chuck Clark for depth. They're very deep at safety. The problem is they don't have much behind the cornerbacks as far as depth goes. They'll have 2 rookies they drafted in the 4th round this year who are going to be the mostly, they'll be the main guys providing depth, but they really can't afford to have Humphrey or Peters get hurt again because it's going to be tough. And again, the biggest question marks around the Ravens is the pass rush. They don't really have a guy who could have 10 sacks, and that could hurt them because you give quarterbacks time. Quarterback like Joe Burrow or Tom Brady, who's on the schedule this year, he could pick them apart. Yeah, so that's really going to be a challenge. I think the Ravens are going to have to put up, 27, 25, 30 points a game to be competitive, because I'm really worried about this. They have a talented defense, but I don't think they have that. They don't have that guy who's going to get 10 sacks. And that secondary needs to stay healthy, because they really can't afford injuries there, because they don't have a whole lot of depth.
How are they shaping up against the run this year?
The run, Justin Matabuke should take the next step in his career. He's the guy to watch. He gets some interior pass rush, good against the run. They signed Michael Pierce because Brandon Williams retired. Ravens are always good against the run. Teams are not going to run against the Ravens. They generally tackle well. They're big up front. The question is, can they stop these big time passers, because they face a lot of good quarterbacks, a lot of good receivers, and it's going to be a challenge. Jamar Chase burned them last year. Joe Burrow threw for 900 yards over 2 games against them. They got Josh Allen on the schedule this year. They avoid the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, but like I said, they got Tom Brady. So they face a lot of good quarterbacks, and they're going to be challenged to make some big plays here.
Oh, Todd, this is awesome. Awesome. You gave me the whole breakdown in just a little more than 20 minutes. So, mi amigo, this was incredible. I talked about it at the beginning. You're going to be splitting time between the Ravens and the Orioles over these coming months. But seeing the Orioles playing better of late, how much easier is it to cover them?
I tell you, they had 29,000 people on Friday. 34,000 on Saturday. I think they had 25 yesterday. So the fans are buying in. Fans are on the bandwagon. They're an exciting young team. The key for the Orioles now is the core of the team now are guys who are homegrown. So they came through the minor leagues together. They came through AA Bowie. They came through AAA Norfolk together. So they all know each other. They've been with each other for a while. So the clubhouse is very, very strong. A lot of good chemistry there. They all know each other. They're all pulling for each other. They got the top of the lineup is very, very dangerous, as long as they stay healthy. And the pitchers have been lights out. I mean, the bullpen is they're all guys who are throwaways from other teams, or guys they picked up off the waiver wire. All 5 guys. The bullpen was stitched together, and it's one of the best in baseball. And the starting rotation's pitching well. Yeah, so this is a fun team to watch. They're exciting. They're young. They're fast. They play good defense. I mean, the Orioles aren't going to win the World Series this year. They may not even go to the playoffs. But the foundation is in place to have some long-term success here over the next couple of years. And at least challenge – the Yankees are running away with the division this year, and I don't think it's going to change. But they could challenge the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays and Blue Jays in the coming years.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Love to see that. Love to see the teams that, after they executed rebuild, that they could be good for a sustained period of time. Hopefully
these classic teams have been around for a while. Orioles are a traditional MLB franchise. It's good for the game when the Orioles are good.
Yes. Yeah. The game is better. The game is better when the Oriole way is well used. Last year, you gave me such a great rundown on the fish taco scene in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Any other new discoveries? Because it seems like you were talking about, like, you have Mexican, you're able to find great Mexican food on a regular basis. Any new discoveries that you've had?
There's a place called Pappy's just opened up. It's like a mile from my house. I have like 3 taco places by my house. It's a mile, and we have food trucks on Wednesday, so it's pretty good. It's not as good as California or Texas, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good Latino Mexican food in Maryland, because we have a pretty good population here of Mexican cooks and Latino cooks, so it's a good culture here.
Oh yeah, I had some family that lived in Baltimore for a little while, and they told me that surprisingly they were able to find authentic Mexican food, and this was about 20 years ago, and now it's fantastic. Todd, this has been wonderful. I mean, I've been wanting to have these be 20 to 30 minutes, and we're right there. I want to give you the floor a little bit. What have you got coming up? That get ready for training camp and for the coming season?
Yeah, I'll be out there for training camp, doing my daily analysis, play of the day, player of the day, who did well, who did bad, this stuff you can't get if you're not there, and it's tough to get there at training camp. And then we're rolling into the season. I think the Ravens are going to have a good year. I think they stay healthy. I think they're a playoff team if they stay healthy. It's going to be fun. And I write 3-4 stories a day. So here you come to my SI.com/Ravens for all the coverage.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, he's good. He's a go-to guy. He's a go-to. That's why I came back. That's why I came back for seconds this year. Todd, mi amigo, thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Un millón
Gracias.
de gracias. Esto fue un gran placer. And familia, eso es todo for our show. Again, please make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com and putting in that promo code Familia22, get 10% off. Again, it's Familia22. Also, make sure I'm going to pushing out all of the content. This NFL Insider series, we're past the halfway point right now. We're getting closer to training camp. I'm hoping to have these all done by the early days of the beginning of training camp, so that we have the entire month of August to really, really break down and get you ready for your redraft leagues. Everybody in best ball, you're going crazy. But Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter and familiaffb.com. I've got the original content. I'm going to have articles coming out. I'm going to have more videos, more NFL Insider videos, and more, just so much content coming up. Get you ready for your leagues, and go to Familia FFB on Instagram and Facebook. Otra vez, Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody remember, todos somos familia. Salud.